NATO, SCO, ASEAN, NAFTA, SARC, and it just goes on and on. And they would like us to be happy with inventing more alphabet soups out here, but I think, we clearly need to go beyond this. There are three basic high tables in the world which matter. One is the Security Council, with its P5, United States, UK, Russia, China, and France. This is a high table which really runs the world's political system and the world's political organization. And you have the G7, which is USA, UK, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and Canada. No Russia and China in that. They run the world's economy. And you have NATO, the strong, the bully boy of the world, the USA, UK, France, Germany, Italy, and most other European nations, with the notable exception of Russia and Switzerland, which decided to keep out of it. The name NATO itself determines the nature of NATO. It is an instrument, to lack of another word I would say, of white domination. It is used in Afghanistan, it is used in the former Yugoslavia, and now in Libya. It's clearly a very underrepresented system, and this kind of arrangement can't go on forever. They've got us into a mess, they will keep getting us into messes, and now they expect us to put our money to sort out their mess. So we're really talking about right now, when we talk about BRICS, BRICS is really talking about expanding this club. Says, please make me a member of this club also. But I'm reminded of Groucho Marx, who said, I don't care to belong to a club that accepts people like me as members. Because, if you have more members, the more devalued the membership is. Now, what is the point of being a member of a club with China and India and Brazil, all big economies, and you're going to sit alongside with Italy, you're going to sit alongside with Spain, who are going to disappear from the economic map very soon. At least among the top 10, they're going to fall off in a year or two. And you want me to sit with them? And and share in the power structure with them? So, this is also not feasible. So clearly, somebody has to come in and somebody has to go out. We are still not willing to deal with these issues. Particularly in BRICS. In BRICS, at least among ourselves, we should be talking about this. We should be talking about what do we do with Italy? What do we do with Spain? What do we do with Britain? What do we do with France? Can you have Europe with 2 permanent members of the Security Council? An aging, dying Europe? So, we have to deal with all these things. And if Brazil and India come into the Security Council, provided the Chinese agree, the Chinese not very keen about India coming in, but they link us up with Japan. They say, we don't want Japan in, but because you're sitting in the same club as Japan, we are right now opposed to you. But that's always disingenuous, because nobody wants that club to be really expanded. Once you're in, you don't want it to change. Now, as far as BRICS is concerned, the truth is that it's come in this forum again and again that there's no commonality which binds us. There's Brazil in the Americas, which is a middle-income, middle-industrialized country, which is very different from Russia, which is a technological and military colossus. Very different from China and India, who are poor countries. For all this talk of our GDPs, China and India are poor countries. Really poor countries. And South Africa is a newly liberated democratic country, relatively at least, with a black majority and still with a white managerial elite. Still the transition has not taken place in South Africa. So what is BRICS if not an attempt to reform the world system? If you don't want to reform the world system, then why are we together sitting here? Why are we spending time on conferences? So can the high tables really become representative? Of course, you can, but the first step would be to make the Security Council more representative by accommodating members reflecting the economic, the geographical and cultural diversity of the United Nations, as well as relative power and size. So we have to form some kind of a matrix to put the new people there. Now, you have the trade associations, you have the regional associations, you have the Organization of African Nations, you have the Organization of Islamic Countries. Can you exclude all these people from the security? If you're talking of a representative world government, can you say that, no, it's only going to be 5 European countries and China? Because, at the end of the day, Russia is still Europe. You listen to the same kind of music. And so, clearly the UNSC, the IBRD, the IMF, and all these institutions must become less Eurocentric. Size of economy, population, national power, all become active factors in the new membership. The tough questions must be asked and discussed. Mere expansion of P5 to P8 or P9 is not the answer, which is what we are attempting now. The world has been in change and it's constantly in churn. In the year 1000, you see the red line, and Western Europe was pretty down. By the 1800s, China and India began their deep decline, and Europe rose, and then in the late 1900s, the United States joined that crowd of countries going up. And now China and India have begun to rise, and the US and Europe are in state of relative decline on the way down. And most economists have agreed that in the next 50 years, this share of world GDP is going to dramatically change. This is the swing towards Asia. Asia is already the biggest driver in the world economy. 36% of the world GDP comes from Asia. Bigger than the European Union, bigger than the United States, and bigger than the rest of the world. And then Asia is growing at the fastest pace. Asia is contributing the most to the world's growth in GDP terms. Now, in 2030 now, people are saying that this order is going to change remarkably. The top 10 economies of 2030 would be China, followed by US, India, Japan, Brazil, Russia, Germany, Mexico, France, and Britain. I said no Italy, no Spain, they've all gone. Current 10 largest economies are US, Japan, India, Germany, China, Germany, France, Britain, Italy, Russia, Spain, and Brazil. India is not there. Now, the real problem with the world is, the changing world, is that both China and India are growing faster than forecast. When I was a graduate student in the early 80s, spreadsheets had just come out. It was a different age. And, we used to go to the basement to load in figures. And one day I was loading in figures, and I started projecting sensitivity, 4% GDP growth, 5%, 6%. And nobody really thought that countries are going to go beyond 7%. And at 7%, and you put 50 years ahead, you came up with astounding numbers. So I went to my faculty advisor and I said, sir, I'm going to write a paper on this. And he said, don't waste time. Do you think these things are going to happen? Do you think India is ever going to stop being an LDC? Do you think China is going to come out of the rut? Do something which is of academic significance. So, I missed it, and I missed, making my fortune on that. Whereas my professor who dissuaded me went on to become a famous man. Anyway, so China is growing much faster than anticipated. People said that in 2040, 2045, China will be number one, but it is going to be number one in 2027, 14 years earlier than Goldman Sachs predicted. Now, the new country to join this race was India. India was always the tortoise in the race between the Chinese hare and the Indian tortoise. The tortoise is now mutating into a hare. And suddenly India is, producing 9% growth rates. And this year, actually, 2011-2012 financial year, the Indian GDP growth rate will be higher than China's. And it will be so for the next 30 years. That is written in stone now by Goldman Sachs, not by me, and by Citibank. And which is, because Citibank has written that, it helps to have an Indian as the head of Citibank. Basically because this growth is going to come because the Indian workforce is going to see a tremendous expansion. We're going to have more hands. Both China, Europe, US, all will be in terms of working cohort declines. So the oracles at Citibank, they say that China would overtake the United States to become the largest economy in the world by 2020, then be overtaken by India by 2050. The Indian economy is expected to be nearly 85 trillion. These are mind-boggling figures on PPP basis by 2050. China would be about 83 trillion then. And we expect India to overtake Japan to become the third largest economy in the world by 2015. In terms of PPP, Indian economy valued today at 4 trillion almost, was at the fourth place in 2009, behind US, China and Japan, according to the World Bank. Now, Citi pointed out that North America and Western Europe's share of world's GDP is expected to fall from 41% to just 18% in 2050. During the same period, Asia's share is going to go up from 27 to 49%. Is this share going to be reflected in the new power structure? Now, this is the question we are discussing and we should be discussing. Citibank is even more bullish about India. Even if you look 10 years from now, the order is changing rapidly. China is number one. US, in PPP terms, US is number two. India is number three. Japan is number four. Russia is number five. Germany. So, you know, the order is changing even in foreseeable future. So, are we doing anything about reforming the world system? Are we talking about reforming the world system? Are we willing to be Bolshevik about the world system, you know, and saying that, you know, let's blow the whistle and, you know, bring some people down here. Now, this is the Goldman Sachs projection. Even they, they are very conservative by today's standards. China is clearly going to be number one. European Union number two, United States number three, and India number four, followed by Japan and Brazil. Now, whose money is running the world? China's money, $2 trillion. Japan, almost $1 trillion. Russia, almost 500 billion. Taiwan, 300 billion. India, even poor India, 250 billion. France is the only European country with some reserves. South Korea and Brazil has 200 billion there. No United States, no Britain, no France, no Europe. We're all living on our money. Now, that is the truth of life. And they are reorganizing the world, and they're telling us how to live. Now, this is not democracy. This is not the democracy they taught us. You know, I didn't know about these words, these grand words of democracy, till the European came to my country and said, you know, this is democracy. So I've learned those words well now, and I'm saying, okay, let's have some democracy. This is the emerging world order, which as you can see, they're going to be 2050, the three skyscrapers, followed by Brazil, Mexico, and Russia. Where are Spain? Where is Italy? Where, you know, all these countries which are sitting on the high table, they're all long gone. And we're not even talking of their demise. This is BRICS together. As you see the power, this unnatural organization called BRICS, which consists of 5 countries without any common interests, without any commonalities. Together, we form a trade union, and we are important. Now, the United States, the United Nations was formed by Caesarean section in the end of the World War, Second World War. You know, the people who took part in this conference, very interesting. There was United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, New Zealand. Sometimes we forget where New Zealand is. And